All right, well, welcome back. We are back on the world tour. All right, so flew back over to Africa to meet up with the family, and we're ready to get rolling again. So, I guess to refresh everybody with where we left off. Last time we had our last leg land here in Bromfisher International Airport, which is, from what I understand, in the capital city of the Free State province of South Africa. And my initial intent was to go ahead and fly south to Cape Town, maybe hit a couple coastal cities on the way before we go ahead and make the Madagascar crossing, and then we'll get to this later, but the very challenging Indian Ocean crossing, let alone with a single turboprop plane. But hey, you know what? That's how you explore. Nonetheless, when I was browsing, this west coast really caught my eye, and as you can see here on Google Earth, I mean, these dunes and this vast area of desert just looks fascinating. And there actually is, there's a few, but there's a nice landing site as well here right on the coast. So I thought this would be fantastic to go explore this area, and then try to plot some things along the way. We actually have a really cool park here, national park, that we could visit along the way. That looks like it's going to be fantastic for some safari and wildlife viewing. But we'll get there. However, for now, I just thought we'd go ahead and take a short flight into Kimberley here. And as we pan in a little bit more to Kimberley, there's a few things here that I thought would be cool. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and land at the Kimberley airport. But there is this nature preserve just on the southeastern edge of the city. We also have an equestrian center that my daughter can go visit and do some riding again. As you might remember, she loves to ride. And we have a nature preserve here on the north side as well, too. So we're going to go ahead and take a short flight into Kimberley and get going there. So just to show you a little bit about what this is. This is a fairly short lake, just over 100 nautical miles as we are flying. That duration is probably going to be a little bit longer as usual, just because of our airspeed and time getting up to cruising altitude, etc. Did a little weather scouting report, super clear skies, so we have really nothing to worry about in terms of weather. There is no IFR. It's going to be a manual driven flight here. However, we are going to, there is no ILS landing. However, we are going to be doing an IFR flight. If I go back, that's going to take us a bit north of Kimberley and then down south to land. So we'll be flying mostly GPS. And of course, I'd like to just take a little snapshot of our waypoints along the way, at least the last few, so I get an idea of what type of altitude we are looking at here. So as you can see, the airport itself, the Kimberley airport, looks like it's sitting around 4,000 feet of sea level. And so, without further ado, Sarah, that was my summary from our last flight. We'll capture a new one when we land. I'm going to go ahead and do a cold start of the aircraft. And if you want to stick around, if not, you can skip ahead till we get ready to take off. But if you are interested in seeing how I cold start the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan, at least in MSFS 2020, stay tuned and I'll get you a little bit more familiar with that. All right, talk soon. All right, so we are in our aircraft. We're going to go ahead and do a cold start of the C208, the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan. I have a printed out Cessna Caravan checklist that is available off the internet. Some you have to pay or log for, but you can find it out there too. You can use the checklists within the simulator as well. However, they're a bit truncated, if you ask me. There are some steps that they don't necessarily walk you through that I think are useful and helpful, also to give you a bit more realistic experience. However, it is not that hard, as you're going to see. So first thing we're going to do, and again, I'm just going off the checklist order. I am not a pilot. There are amazing instructors out there, even that aren't even pilots, that are just familiar with the sim. That maybe I'm speaking wrong. However, this is how I started the aircraft, and it seems to work well. And I'm following an actual checklist. So here we go. First thing, I'm going to go ahead and turn on our batteries. We're going to make sure our fuel selectors are on. So those are on. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure our fuel condition is set. It's not cut. We are fine at low idle for right now. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure our prop RPM is set to max. Oop, I didn't select that, sorry. So we'll set that to max. And we're going to make sure our power is at around idle, which for the Caravan seems to be around 8%. So I'll just go ahead and leave that there. We're going to make sure our lights are on. So obviously, depending on if you're landing or taxiing day or night, be aware of them too. But it's this top row right here. I'm just going to go ahead and flip on my taxi lights. I'm going to hit my strobe and my nav lights and my beacon lights, just to have those on. I know we're in bright sun right now. However, let's make sure all that's on. There are other things, of course, that an actual aircraft you might have to go through. However, right now the lights are set. If you are flying in the dark, your lighting down here, your pedestal lighting, as well as your two floods for the pilot and co-pilot, you can go ahead and turn on those, including your panel lights. So, if you need to light up the aircraft at night, that's where that's at. And we're going to go ahead and set our fuel boost to on. And then we're going to set our ignition to normal. Or actually in the sim, it's on. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure my parking brake is on. If you want to actually click it, you can click this and you can see the lever pull in and out here. So you pull it out to make sure that parking brake is on. And then we're going to go ahead and kick on the starter. And we'll wait patiently. And that's going to go ahead and fire up. And then only a few more steps here. Of course, there are a few things that we normally do, as you'll see on the runway. I'll get to those regardless of the video. I know I'm showing a little bit more than usual, but a lot of times you'll see me get my instrumentation set before I actually take off, things like that. However, we'll go through that a little bit more in detail, maybe this flight. And then now that we're started up, I can go ahead and I can turn my starter off. And I could set my fuel boost to norm, or in this case, auto. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on the avionics and set my flaps as well too. So flap lever is down here. So we'll just get those at 50%. And then you're going to hear him talk as soon as I fire up my avionics to call in that IFR flight and get ground clearance for pushback and whatnot. And of course, as I start to push you back, I'm going to have to take off the parking brake. So let's go ahead and flip on avionics.
Bloemfontein Tower, Cessna Juliet, November, Tree 16 IFR, to Kimberley, ready to copy.
Cessna Juliet November 316 is cleared to Kimberley Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 02 climb and maintain 14,000 feet. Departure frequency is 118.5 squawk 1265.
Cessna Juliet November 316 cleared to Kimberley Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 02 climb and maintain 14,000 feet. Departure on 118.5 squawk 1265.
Cessna 316 readback correct. Contact ground on 120.8. Good day.
Bloemfontein ground Cessna Juliet November 316 requesting pushback.
So co-pilot called in pushback,
November 316 pushback request accepted.
and here he comes to push the aircraft back. You, of course, can go into the ATC menu and go ahead and cancel pushback if you really don't need it. I'm going to go ahead and release that parking brake. And yes, they do appear to come quite close to that propeller. Doesn't seem to affect them too much. Whew, that's a little close. And sometimes, depending on the the AI, okay, there it goes. Now we're moving here. So they're pushing me back from the parking space. You can do things like push right, push left if necessary.
Bloemfontein ground Cessna Juliet November 316 requesting the end of pushback.
Cessna Juliet November 316 request to end pushback received.
So I went ahead and re-engaged my parking brake just for a moment to
Bloemfontein
make sure.
ground Cessna Juliet November 316 with India ready to taxi IFR.
Cessna Juliet November 316 taxi to and hold short of runway 02 via taxiway Alpha. Contact tower on 120.8 when ready.
Okay.
Taxiing hold short runway 02 using taxiway Alpha Cessna 316.
All right, so now we should be good to go ahead and taxi to our runway per the instructions that were just given. If you really struggle with the taxi part, you could go ahead. I do sometimes too, especially depending on the size of the airport. That's the one guidance I'll give myself is the taxi ribbon. So they'll actually have blue arrows, guiding you along the taxi path, which makes it helpful. I mean, you're still taxiing, but you're not trying to wonder what the heck is going on. However, the more comfortable you get, the more you can read signs, listen to the instructions, and follow a proper taxi. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break here. I'm going to taxi out to our runway, and we'll do a few more things once we get to the runway itself before we actually lift off. All right, so we taxi to runway 02. We are ready to go. Occasionally when you get at the runways, you'll be able to see the windsocks. You see it over on the left there. There actually is codes I was recently shared with by a friend that you can look up where, depending on where it's bending, shows the actual speed in knots. So it can be very helpful. However, we have instrumentation now that helps us show that information. Nonetheless, to continue our final, even though we're started up now, to continue our final demonstration of the aircraft itself and getting it up in the air, and taking a little bit more time explaining this, just as I know there are some people like me who are out there who look for information and how to help them learn the C208 to fly. So before we go ahead and take off, I just like to get my instrumentation set. Now, of course, I could leave it on nav mode. However, it's probably proper. I go ahead and head straight out. I say that. What I mean is I click on that heading bug and I click it, and it actually sets us to the direction that the aircraft is currently pointing. So as we lift off and I let the autopilot take over, it keeps us on a straight path through and over the runway before I engage navigation. So once that's set, I just go ahead and click on heading mode. We were guided to 14,000 feet, so I'll just go ahead and set that here. And I'll do a vertical speed of probably around 1,200 feet per minute to go ahead there. So as soon as I take off and I am able, I can go ahead and engage the autopilot, and that allows me to pay attention to other instrumentation and things that I need to do as well too. However, you can fly manual as long as you like. Sometimes it's fun just to fly around. However, I'm just going to get you familiar with how to use this and get the aircraft in the air. So, instrumentation is set, of course, if it's cold and you have the modes on. There is some de-icing options here that do work on the simulation, as depending on the temperature, you may have to engage that. We will not have to worry about that right now. Also, if you're setting your navigation frequencies before flight, you can go ahead and set those. Just remember that when you set them, if I zoom in here a little for you, if I were to go ahead and set this frequency to, sorry, that's my volume. I was showing the wrong button. Anyways, if I were to set my frequency to, let's say, 113, you see the 113 is highlighted. Do not get confused. That's actually the one that's actually in standby. So you're going to need to go ahead and activate that frequency in order to make it the active frequency. So you actually click this button, and then you see the 113.0. Go ahead, and now it's our active frequency. You can do the same thing for nav2. Going ahead and getting that ready. For us, we're going to be flying GPS, so you can see right now the green, it's on VOR. So we need to switch that over to GPS mode. I'm going to go ahead and click that, which is the CDI. So that is going to go ahead, and if I click it once, it's going to go to VOR 2. You're going to see the VOR 2, which is going to be guidance off the nav2 frequency. And if I go ahead and toggle it again, you're going to see that it now reads GPS, and it's purple, which is easy to see as well too. So I just wanted to make sure we are in GPS mode so that when we go to nav in flight, it is going to use the GPS systems, which is what we want to do. And then also before flight, you want to make sure your fuel condition is full or full rich, or in this case, in the sim, it's called high idle. So you're going to go ahead and do that. Again, make sure your parking brake is on while you're doing these things. And then we are ready to get in the air. And then what's neat about the checklists is they do have other, guidance for what to do as you're climbing, what to do at cruise altitude, what to do when you're descending, pre-landing, post-landing, and shutdown. And maybe we can cover those another time. But for right now, we're just going to get situated and go ahead and get this aircraft in the air while we are situated. So, there's discussions on whether you want to brake while you throttle up. There's really no need. We have plenty of speed. I can leave my flaps at 50%. We are fine. I guess what I mean is you can hold the brakes while you throttle up to build up your thrust, and then release the brakes, and you get a bit more of a sudden, initial speed when you release those brakes. However, we have plenty of runway, and definitely not necessary here. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll throttle up and get in the air. So I'm taking my parking brake off, and then I'm going to go ahead and throttle the turbo diesel. Now on the C208, the throttle, you're going to notice on that secondary display, that the second screen, the middle screen. Well, actually, I'll have you pay attention to that in a second. So once we get up to speed, we're going to go ahead. You can see the aircraft gets in the air. Now, right now, you don't have to, but I'm going to just to show you. I'm going to hit autopilot. You can click the button or whatever key it is. I already clicked it. So autopilot is on. So again, it's keeping us at that navigation heading that I plugged in and getting us up to altitude at the ascent rate that I chose. Now I can go ahead and retract my flaps.
Cessna 316 contact Johannesburg Center on 118.5. Good day.
I can go ahead and turn off my taxi
118.5
lights.
Cessna 316. Johannesburg Center Cessna Juliet November 316 is passing 5,000 feet, climbing 14,000 feet.
And if you follow this pointer right here, this is the gauge that you'll often see right away, depending on the condition of the atmosphere and the wind and where we're going. It'll probably start blinking red, sometimes even right away. This engine is not meant to run at 100%, certainly at these altitudes. So I'm going to go ahead and back that off before it starts yelling at me anyways. And then once I'm up to speed, generally speaking, we'll go ahead and we'll decrease the mix to low idle. I'll drop my propeller RPM, right around the 75% range. And then again, I'll drop this right around the 75 to 80% range. Mostly to conserve fuel. I could run it a bit hotter and faster if I wanted to. However, that's not what I normally do. So we are up in the air, and then once we clear that runway, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this nav button. And as soon as I do that, it's going to go ahead and get us back to our navigation path. I'm going to go and show you. Don't need to toggle the menu. I'm going to go ahead and show you that, right? So that's the navigation path that it's getting us back to. So the nav will hold us on course. It'll adjust for wind and everything else. And once we get closer, we'll go ahead and take it in. So I know this flight is a little bit more technical. However, it's a short flight, and there's lots of fun things to do once we get to Kimberley. But we'll enjoy the scenery as we approach as well too. But for right now, we're just getting up to altitude. Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you, and it is important, when they go ahead, they'll tell you the barometric pressure, the altimeters, so you can tweak that so you can see the altimeters at 30.15. You adjust that on this aircraft. This knob right, it's the outer knob right there. So we're going to go ahead, and that was a bit off, 30.15. And of course, what that does is it calibrates the instrumentation for actual altitude, which of course is quite important when flying a plane. So there you go. It really isn't too bad. I've experimented with other aircrafts, although I personally just love the C208 for a couple reasons. One, primarily the view. These larger jets, while they're faster and cooler and sleeker, you just got windows all around you, right? And of course, as we're having fun traveling with a family, it's of course a larger passenger plane. You can see I can get 8 passengers back there, and even tie up some luggage in the back. And if I want more, there of course is storage underneath the aircraft as well too. And with the bulky landing gears, we can land pretty much anywhere. And if you've seen some of my videos, we have pretty much landed anywhere. So that nav's going to start banking us right in a little bit because we're getting back to that navigation path. And that's really about it. Like I said, once we get to cruising altitude, we'll adjust our power settings. And that's really about it. So C208 is up in the air. That's a Cessna Grand Caravan. And continue with us on the flight and check out some other videos as well too, as they are not all technical. They're more fun, if you will. But I did want to give this out there for those that did want to learn a little bit more about the aircraft and cold starts and how to get it in the air. So thanks again, and see you in a little bit. All right, so we are making our descent right now, heading down to 7,000 feet, approaching Kimberley, and you actually see ahead of us, looks like there's a water treatment plant over there. Actually over here, a little bit to the south, or for us southwest right now, that body of water is actually Kamfers Dam. And shortly after that, we'll be flying through, scoot up a little bit and see, we'll be flying through downtown Kimberley over there. So that POI point popping up there is probably Kimberley. Looks like it's in the center of the city. And airport is a bit further south, so we'll be able to get a nice flyby through downtown Kimberley, and I believe we're going to be going over, yeah, we'll be going right over Kamfers Dam, so that might be pretty cool to watch as well too. So go ahead, get back in the seat here, and we'll tune in shortly as I make my journey. All right, so making our turn here over Kamfers Dam. Let's go outside and get a nice view, especially if some of you are familiar with the area. Really neat. We're going to be flying, as I said, over the dam, and then downtown Kimberley is over there off to the, well, in front of us, of course, too, and off to the right a little bit. Our altitude right now is about 5,600 feet, about 1,600 feet above the runway that we're going to be landing on shortly. Really cool feature. Not sure if that S that I see is natural or man-made for some controls. I don't know. Really neat feature. Thought I would give you an outside flyover of the dam since we had an opportunity. We are approaching the runway, but I'll try to keep the camera over here to give you a little view of the city as we go over. So again, this is downtown Kimberley. In fact, I believe over here in that area on the map was that nature preserve, at least one of them that we were talking about, that DeBeers Nature Reservation, or Reserve, I should say. And again, we have downtown Kimberley. Might be kind of interesting. For some of you, I'll switch back to the cockpit view in a moment. As you can see, we have the runway up ahead. Really neat renderings of the city. Looks like we got some type of tower over there, maybe a water tower. Oh, is that a mine? Reminds me of cenotes when I was in Mexico. It's really kind of cool. Should probably jump back in the cockpit though, huh? Oh, that's appears to be a building, not a water tower. Oh, really neat. Right, oopsie. Getting a little excited about our overview. We're a little bit high. So recommended to pay attention to your approach as a pilot. to be about 85 knots. Below would be good. Certainly don't recommend this type of glide slope. See those little 4 lights off to the left there? Only 2 should be on right now, and I got a wicked tailwind here going on.
500.
Under normal flight conditions, I would recommend a missed approach and a flyover, but with a fairly small and forgiving Cessna here, I think nice long runway. Again, not recommended, but we're just having fun, right? Flare a bit, maybe a bit too early. All right. Flaps up, and we'll may have missed our taxiway. We'll use this to turn around. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get the aircraft to its proper area at the gate, or at least the parking area, and we'll tune back in before we shut down. All right, we have found our way to the parking area. So we have there's a plane and a tanker next to us. Over here behind the tanker is actually the fuel station, so we can pretty easily pull up and fuel up for our next trip. So real quick, I just thought I would show you show you how to shut down as well. So the first thing and I'm not sure why my controls locked it hard, right? But there we go. Anyways, we're going to go ahead, and the first thing we're going to do is make sure that fuel pump is switched to off. We're going to go ahead and kill our avionics, because we do not need those anymore. We're going to feather our propeller. Let's pull it back down. And then we're going to cut off our fuel. Go ahead and then the last thing would be the actual battery. Sorry. And then that's really it. Oh, sorry, fuel selectors. Just going through my printed checklist here. And that's all it is. So now we are completely shut down, and we can just follow the checklist that we did earlier to start her back up and get moving again. So anyways, so thank you. We have arrived in Kimberley, and we're going to continue our journey, but first we're going to go ahead and visit some of these parks in the area and see what other adventures we can have as a family. So thanks for continuing to join us. A little bit longer of a video this time, and yeah, and sorry about that landing. It's really kind of important to pay attention. Navigate is the first thing you should be doing. Or so, aviating. Aviating is the first thing you should be doing. And then you navigate, then you communicate, and certainly just looking out the window and enjoying the scenery is not one of those three. So, nonetheless, we pulled in for a landing. That's all good. So, we're going to go ahead and take off and see us again soon, hopefully, as we continue our journey. All right, take care. God bless.